All right, today we're diving into a really powerful framework called AtlasT. Now, what makes this so fascinating is that it's a way to understand not just how things are built, but also why they break, and more importantly, how to fix them without having to tear everything down and start from scratch.
But let's start with a question that I'm sure feels familiar to a lot of you. Why is it that our best ideas, these amazing projects that have so much promise, so often seem to just crumble right at the moment they should be taking off? It's a super common problem, and honestly, it's incredibly frustrating.
You see, the way we usually think about growth is, well, kind of flawed. Most of the models we use are like a one-way street. They're all about pushing forward, scaling up, getting bigger. But AtlasT is totally different. Think of it more like a two-way map. It's designed to guide you when you're building, sure, but also when you get lost and need to find your way back.
So let's properly introduce this thing. A map for systems. It's a framework built from the ground up for both growth and diagnosis, helping you navigate complexity no matter which direction you're heading.
And this is the real game changer. There are a million guides out there that'll show you how to get bigger. But what happens when things go wrong? AtlasT is unique because it also gives you the tools to retrace your steps and figure out where you took a wrong turn. It's not just a blueprint, it's also a rescue map.
Okay, so let's walk the path forward first. We'll start with part one, the path to growth. This is all about using the forward sequence to build something that's actually designed to last, not just to launch. This forward path is called the generative sequence, and it's made up of 4 simple stages, each represented by a shape: triangle, circle, square, and then spiral. Now, to make this really concrete and easy to understand, let's imagine we're building a brand new tech startup from the ground up. Everything, and I mean everything, starts with the triangle. This is the clarity operator. For our startup, this is the big idea, the core purpose, and it's so much more than just a mission statement. It's the absolute, non-negotiable answer to the question, what problem are we really solving, and who are we solving it for? A strong triangle isn't some vague, fluffy concept. It means your purpose is crystal clear. It means your goals don't fight with each other. And it means you actually understand the real-world limits you're working with. If you don't have this, everything you build on top of it is basically a house of cards.
And this right here is why this sequence is so important. You can't just skip this step and start hiring people, because as the framework puts it so perfectly, connection without clarity produces noise. If nobody's clear on the mission, all you get from more communication is more confusion. It's just noise.
So once you've nailed down that clarity, then you can move on to the next stage, the circle. This is the relational operator. In our startup, this is the founding team. It's all about how they connect with each other, how they communicate, and how they build trust around that central, clear purpose.
A healthy circle is one where the relationships are strong, where there are real feedback loops so people can actually hear each other, and where there's a deep level of trust. This is the human engine that brings that big idea to life.
But here's another common trap. You've got a great team, you're all excited, and the instinct is to immediately create a bunch of rigid rules and processes. But if you rush that, you run into this problem. Structure without connection produces brittleness. Your organization will just crack the moment it comes under real pressure.
And that leads us to the square, the structural operator. You can think of this as the skeleton of our startup. It's not about creating bureaucracy for the sake of it. It's about building the necessary processes, roles, and infrastructure to contain all that creative energy and give it a stable, solid form.
So what does a solid square get you? It gets you stability. It's what allows you to handle stress and weather the storms. You've got clear processes. You know how money and people are being allocated, and you have firm boundaries that protect the whole system. This structure is what makes real, sustainable growth even possible.
And only now, after you have clarity, connection, and containment, are you ready for the spiral. This is the growth operator. For our startup, this is finally where we scale. We bring on thousands of users, we adapt to the market, we expand. The key insight here is huge. Growth isn't the first step you take. It's the final result of a healthy, well-built system.
So that's the happy path, right? Building something from nothing. But what happens when things go wrong? This is where AtlasT goes from being a cool idea to an absolute lifesaver. Let's look at part 2, the path to repair, where we use this whole sequence in reverse.
Now, the first thing we have to do is get our heads around this critical insight. Growth does not create failure. Growth reveals failure.
The problem isn't that you're scaling up. The problem is that scaling up is putting a spotlight on the weaknesses that were already hiding there in your system.
So the diagnostic path is literally the growth path just walked backward. We become detectives. We start with the symptoms we can see, the problems happening at the spiral level, and we trace them backward, through the square and the circle all the way back to the triangle to find the real root cause.
Let's make this super practical. Let's say your team is suffering from massive burnout. That's a symptom you're seeing at the spiral level, right? The pain of growth. So, is the root cause that your processes are broken and your infrastructure can't keep up a square problem? Or is it that your team's communication is broken down and there's no trust, a circle problem? Or do you have to go all the way back and ask, have we lost sight of our original mission? Is this a triangle problem?
And here is the true power of this whole approach. Because you can trace the problem to its source, you can perform targeted surgery. You can repair this specific broken part of the system without having to do a full reset. You don't have to burn it all down and start over from scratch.
So how do all these pieces actually fit together? Well, the whole framework is held together by a pretty simple set of principles. You can almost think of it like an equation that keeps the entire system in balance.
Well, let's just break this down really quick. The health of your spiral, your growth, is basically the end result of all the other stages working together. You need the clarity and intent from the triangle, you need the connection and alignment from the circle, and you need the right structure and sequencing from the square. If any one of those is weak or out of balance, the whole system starts to wobble.
Okay, so let's bring it all home. Why does this framework actually matter? Well, because it's not just some abstract theory. It's a practical, two-way map that any of us can use to build better and, just as importantly, to fix smarter.
If you remember just one thing from all this, let it be this quote. The exact same elements that govern creation also govern repair. The things you have to get right when you're building are the exact same things you need to check when you're fixing. It's one map. You just use it in two different directions.
And that leaves us with one final question for you to think about. I want you to look at the challenges you're facing in your own world, in your work, on your teams. Where are you seeing what looks like a spiral problem? A problem with growth, maybe burnout or chaos, that might actually be a triangle problem. A problem with your fundamental clarity and purpose in disguise.